today in the State House, we are very excited to introduce our newest exhibit here. This is housed under the west staircase, just off of the State House lobby. This is the Road to Recognition, the Abenakis in the state of Vermont. And this is a project that has been in the works for quite some time here, working with a broad group of people, particularly the Abenakis themselves here in the state of Vermont. And this is really a great collaborative effort to come together to talk about and to celebrate the recognition of the four Abenaki tribes in 2011 and 2012, and that's what we aim to do here, is tell a little bit of the story about the people here in Vermont that were here certainly for a very long time prior to any European arrival, the Abenaki people, the Native Americans here, and right through their struggles for recognition, starting sort of in the early 1970s and through to actually reaching those goals in the early part of the 2010s. And the big piece here again is how do we connect folks to this building themselves, and moving forward we want to do our best to connect all Vermonters the best we can to experiences here in this building. So again, this highlights what culminated in 2010 and was signed into law by Governor Jim Douglas, S-222 bill, which was the first true tribal recognition bill that was passed and signed into law, and it created a new Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs that would work with scholars and review tribal petitions against previous criteria that have been established in statute and work towards a more full recognition. And that happened in two different segments, again in 2011 and 2012. In 2011, the Elnu and the Nulhegan tribes were recognized when bills passed that year, and then in 2012, the Missisquoi and the Coas were recognized as well. Major events, and as part of both those events, the Abenaki gifted to the state of Vermont. In both cases, Governor Shumlin was the governor, so they were gifted to him. He was the one who received them on behalf of the state of Vermont. But we have those items here in this display case as well. And this really is a beautiful display that was put together here. And each of these pieces is very important and were handmade for this event. For these two separate events, excuse me. So we have what is a handmade tobacco bag in here. We have an effigy pipe here that's here. There are a number of different, there are wampum strings, there are wampum belts, and again, there's more information here. I would really encourage people, if you are in the State House, take 10 or 15 minutes, come over here and really read the full story. I'm not doing it enough justice here, how important this is. Read the full story of this sort of journey, this road to recognition, and take a good look at these objects. I'll call them objects, these gifts that were handmade by the Abenakis and given to the state of Vermont in 2011 and 2012. There's a recognition commemorative belt here as well in the case, and these are really incredibly beautiful pieces and incredibly important in their meaning to the Abenaki people as well as to the state of Vermont, and that they were gifted to us and are now part of our permanent collection, and very happy that they are on display here where the public can come and see more and understand more of this this great story. And we're just excited to be able to more fully recognize the Abenakis here in the State House. They've certainly been, again, in Vermont a lot longer than this building or than the state of Vermont itself has been here. And this is certainly one way where we can connect a really important historic moment for them to what that happened in this building by honoring that and telling their great story and being able to show off for the public these pretty incredible pieces that were created and gifted to the state. So if you find yourself here, this is an exhibit that will be up here into the future, so it'll be here. If you're here in the State House, again, I encourage you to find a little bit of time to come over and really take this in, because it's a great story and long overdue for us to tell it here.
Abenaki greeting song. Yo gondo de gon hodane, yo gondo de gon hodane, gonna wanna hey yo yo hey, gonna wanna hey
Welcome. I'm David Sheets, the state curator. We're here to celebrate an installation in the State House honoring the Abenaki as the indigenous people of Vermont. And leading us off at first is a wampum ceremony with Dr. Fred Wiseman, who has helped us very significantly in creating the exhibit that you'll see in the main lobby of the State House. Fred.
After each name is read, there will be a drum beat, and anybody that remembers any of the kind of pioneers of recognition, you're welcome to use the Kiowa Lakota word aho, which is a customary transcultural expression meaning I agree or it is so. Okay, so there's some ground rules. As taught by the Wabanaki Traditions Keeper, Donald Soktama of Indian Township, I present these wampum strings to honor the inauguration of Wabanaki Confederacy ceremony. The first string is to open your eyes to what you will see. The second string is to open your ears to what you will hear. The third is to open your hearts to that which you will find. My ancestral friend, Cohasset Chief Nancy Millette, once taught a basic principle of her family and community. She called it Nawila. This is also an Odanak Abenaki word that roughly translates as coming home. But the ancestral Coas village looks to our east in that direction. It seemed more, returning once again to a place of consequence, a place of knowledge, of power. Today we return to a place of consequence, but we are incomplete. As taught to me, I who have no name, hold a vessel of remembrance. As taught to me long ago by Cozy Nicholas and David Francis of Sipaik, I tell you that the Wabanaki Confederation Wampum of Memory, Wampum of Mourning, offers condolence and a measure of solace to those who weep for the great dead, or yearn for the esteemed living, who are not seen here due to distance, politics, time, illness. Today, the Wampum of Memory serves to witness to the defenders of Vermont Abenaki legitimacy who are not here. They who sought Vermont's acknowledgement 25 winters ago then stood against the darkness until the pathway of indigenous recognition was revealed 15 summers later. I hunt their names in the forests and fields of community memory. The register is incomplete, but let us hear of their identity once again. Director Jeffrey Benet.
Whole lot of gay.
Aho. Professor and Chair Deborah Blum.
Whole lot of gay.
Aho. Representative Carolyn Brannigan.
Whole lot of gay.
Aho. Professor Colin Calloway.
Whole lot of gay.
Aho. Senator Julius Cans and his son.
Whole lot of gay.
Aho. Chief Nancy Cote.
Whole lot of gay.
Culture Bearer Patrick Cote.
Whole lot of gay.
Farmer Peggy Fullerton.
Whole lot of gay.
Senator Vince Aluzzi.
Whole lot of gay.
Chief April Merrill.
Whole lot of gay.
Senator Hinda Miller.
Whole lot of gay.
Chief Nancy Millette.
Whole lot of gay.
Chair Mark Mitchell.
Whole lot of gay.
Researcher Carol Neptune.
Whole lot of gay.
Director Nicola Bomsawin.
Whole lot of gay.
Director Robert Paquin.
Whole lot of gay.
Professor and Chair James Peterson.
Whole lot of gay.
Grand Chief Homer St. Francis.
Whole lot of gay.
Chief and Chair Luke Willard.
Whole lot of gay.
Let us revere their silent feet, which brought them to us, then led them away. Their hidden hands, once again lifted in service to indigenousness. Their veiled faces, where sat the knowledge, integrity, and cunning that secured the blessings of acknowledgement as indigenous peoples. The wampum is shut.
Just wanted to say that the first opening was by Chief Roger Longtoe of El Nu. Could we have the Bruchaks come up and do a prayer, please, for the people who have crossed?
Quai quai ni don baka, bako nongaziak, pamgiskak, ulioni udzi and wazanam nia tanimitongus yodali pamgiskak.
Hello, my friends. You all appear new to us. Myself and my father, me, wish to greet you and thank you.
Ulioni nimitongus. Natami nia andacho ida kitsi ulioni udzi kitsino wask, ta kizos, kanwandagama yodali pamgiskak, kizla asokwat, ta alakwasak, Tanani ponsat atsi, kitsi ulioni.
We give greetings and we give thanks to our great creator, Kitsinowask, and to the sun, and to our grandmother, the moon, the night traveler, and to the Daklakwasak, the distant stars, those beings that give us light.
Ta'atsi nian datri ida kitsi ulioni idzi yo a kik. Aliwi tamak indakina. Alomiwi indakina and wadzunem uli wadzoak ta sibowal ta nibisak kitsi ulioni udzi mziwi kagwasolat si. Ta soglonat si ulioni nimitongus.
We give thanks to this land and Dakina, to the waters of this land, to the rivers, the lakes, to the great ocean, and to the rain that brings moisture and life to all living things.
Mitzisala, indachui da kitsi ulioni udzi awa asak, taonlawi awasos ta tamakwa, taonlawi tulba, ta sibsak, ta namasak atsi, kitsi ulioni udzi mziwi awa asak, yodali alomiwi andakinak.
And we give thanks to those four-legged ones, to the animals, the bear, the deer, the turtle. We give thanks to the birds that fly, to all of the living creatures that are our relatives, all our relatives here on this land.
Matanaski and Datra Ida Kitsi Ulioni Pomozuinoak Yodali Pamgiskak Alnombak Ta Wombigi Dzikatsi Kitsi Ulioni Udzi Kitsi Songomo Yodali Ta Songomok Nialach.
We give thanks to all the people, those who have done so much in the past, to our ancestors, those who came before us, those who are yet to come. We give thanks to our chiefs. We give thanks to Kitsi Songomo, big chief, also Kitsi Si Songomo, the second big chief, the governor and the lieutenant governor. And to all of those who are gathered here with good hearts to celebrate this day, and all those who have made this possible. Oh.
Thank you, Joseph and Jesse Bruchak, for that prayer. I'd like to now introduce Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman. He's going to say a few words.
Thank you. I've got a couple different things to do. I'm going to be reading the governor's proclamation because unfortunately he couldn't be here, but he did sign it this morning. I'll be reading that. I've also got the bill that the legislature has passed to recognize and change how the state recognizes this day, or the day in October. So I will be signing as the President Pro Tem in that regard. I'm not signing the bill as the governor. He will still have to do that. But before I do those two things, I just wanted to share that this is an incredible day, I know, for so many here, and such an honor to be here with the people of the Dawnland and the four main tribes within, the Elnu, the Nulhegan, the Missisquoi, and the Kios. And as I work the land, including this morning, transplanting onions, trying to farm the land organically, thinking about caring for the land, caring for our water, caring for the creatures that are going across that land as we farm it, and not using the poisons that sometimes happen in agriculture. I think about my reverence for the earth and our water, and that water is life. And even when newscasters say today's not a good day, to be outside, or it's too bad it's raining, I think about what a shame it would be if it didn't rain. what would happen if it didn't rain, and how we think as a culture sometimes how disconnected we are from the importance of all the different weather that we get. We need sun and we need rain. So it's a real honor to be able to stand up here before you to read this proclamation and to sign the bill, because I hold our land and our air and our water and the winds in very high regard myself. So in reading the proclamation from the governor, Executive Department of the State of Vermont, whereas Abenaki Recognition and Heritage Week marks a time to honor and celebrate the history of the Abenaki people who, long before the arrival of the first Europeans, inhabited all of Vermont and New Hampshire, parts of western Maine, parts of southern Quebec, and parts of upstate New York. And whereas centuries of oral tradition have kept the history and the ancient culture of the Abenaki alive, and many contemporary Abenaki families intend to continue to pass on these indigenous traditions to the younger generations. And whereas, unfortunately, we must acknowledge the history of the Abenaki people is marred by disease and upheaval, war, and the atrocity of eugenics, discrimination, and injustice. And whereas, beginning in the early 1970s, the Abenaki people sought recognition as Native American Indian tribes. And whereas, on May 14, 2010, Governor James H. Douglas signed into law Act Number 107 of 2010, an act relating to state recognition of Native American Indian tribes in Vermont, a bill which set forth formal criteria and a process for Abenaki tribes to be recognized as Native American Indian tribes by the state. And whereas, in order to recognize the historic and cultural contributions of Native Americans to Vermont, to protect and strengthen their heritage, and to address their needs in state policy, programs, and actions, the Act also established the Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs. And whereas Vermont is now home to 4 state-recognized Native American Indian tribes, the Elnu Abenaki tribe, the Nulhegan Band of the Coosac Abenaki Nation, the Coasec Abenaki of the Coas, and the Missisquoi St. Francis Sokoke Band. And whereas, through mutual honor and respect for the rich heritage of Vermont's Abenaki people, this week we celebrate the Abenaki and their ancestors and acknowledge and honor these members of the community, both past and present. Now, therefore, I, Philip B. Scott, Governor, hereby proclaim May 1st through 5th, 2019 as Abenaki Recognition and Heritage Week in Vermont.
Yes.
And now what I have before me as well is the work of our House and Senate bodies in the legislature, and you'll be hearing from the President Pro Tem shortly, as well as the Speaker of the House. But both led the effort to get through S68, which is, this is the actual bill. It's got all the little stamps on the back. This is the official document that will be changing how the state recognizes that day in October with respect to the people of this land, to Indigenous Peoples Day, from the prior name of Columbus Day. And it's really an honor as President of the Senate to be able to sign this document in that capacity. And I think back to my high school years where A People's History of Ourselves was my U.S. history textbook by Howard Zinn, where I first learned of the consequences of European landing on this soil and the warm welcome and embrace that the Native people brought to them, and yet the not so reciprocal treatment that was given by those of us with European ancestry. And so I think back to those days of learning that truth that so many more folks are still yet to learn who walk on this native land. So I sign this with great honor to those of you with such ancestry of this place. There it is. It'll go to the governor. He'll sign it next, and it'll become the law of the land. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, for that. And I'm Chief Don Stevens of the Nulhegan Bandakusak Abenaki Nation. I wanted to say a couple of words. We have a display. If you haven't seen it yet, we worked hard with a bunch of people here, and we have a permanent display in the State House. So please, when you get a chance later on today, please walk through these doors. It's right underneath the stairs. It's about the road to recognition. So I would like to thank the Governor's Office, the Lieutenant Governor, the legislators for their willingness to recognize and celebrate the Abenaki people, who are the original stewards of this land. I would like to thank David Sheets, Friends of the State House, Carol McGranahan, Fred Wiseman, and many others gathered here who helped make this day possible. Our ancestors who have crossed over are here with us today, standing tall and feeling pride in what our generation is accomplishing for the continued future of the Abenaki people. Our parents and grandparents who survived adversity sing in celebration, joining us with one heart and one voice. We must honor and acknowledge these sacrifices, which have allowed us to stand in front of you today. We must remember the struggles and how we got to this place in history. For centuries, the House of the People that now stands behind us did not hear the cries of our Abenaki voices. We were treated as unwanted visitors, outcasts in our own homeland. In 2006, the Abenaki people summoned the strength to knock on that door one more time in hopes that our voices would be heard. The legislators and governor opened that door just a crack by recognizing our people as a minority population, but still would not recognize our tribes or let us in the front door. We continued to stand on these steps here under this great golden dome until we were recognized in 2011 and 2012 for who we are, proud Abenaki Indians.
Yes.
Since then, the legislators and governor's office have gotten to know us a little bit better. Their fears have eased about what recognizing our people would really mean to the state of Vermont. This cooperation has opened the door to endless possibilities and opportunities for all to enjoy. We now work in partnership with many state agencies in a government-to-government relationship as equals to uplift our people and provide guidance to the state of Vermont when needed. Voices that were once discounted and silenced are considered and respected. We offer unique insights, knowledge, and wisdom on various subjects affecting the state and our people. We need to continue to lend our voices in order to make positive impacts in the ever-changing world and climate we live in. We need to continue to walk together on this path to protect our planet and our very existence. Today is truly a historic moment. We have been finally invited into this great house of the people as friends, equals, and partners. The gifts given so long ago at recognition time and friendship now have a permanent place in the lobby of this great house. It is no longer a stranger's house. It is now part of our home in which we all share and have items in it. Let us continue to work together to celebrate diversity, which is so tightly woven into the fabric of Vermont's landscape. Let us reaffirm our efforts and commitment to learn from each other. We must do this for the sake of our children and the generations that will benefit from our continued cooperation. Together, we can continue to do great things. Aho. I'd like to now recognize Representative Mitzi Johnson, Speaker of the House.
It's wonderful to see so many people here recognizing how important this is that we embrace everyone in Vermont, that we are especially acknowledging that this is a week for for appreciating, recognizing, and for some of us learning about cultures that were here many, many years before Europeans came to this area. I'm very proud that the first bill signed into law for this biennium is H1. It's an act about racial equity and justice, where we will begin in our school system to incorporate many more voices, to make sure that we're recognizing all people, cultures, cultures beyond sort of the dominant standard culture. I did not have Lieutenant Governor's history teacher. My history books were not the people's history of the United States. And so this is a process of really relearning history to be much more inclusive, much more accurate, and to honor everybody that is here. I am so grateful for the work and partnership of the Abenaki to be able to bring this, bring about all the changes that the chief spoke of in being able to fully recognize the Abenaki people, in having a permanent installation here. When I was in the when I was in the Maine State House, they have an installation there of the various Native American tribes in Maine, and I'm very proud to be able to say that we will have the same thing in Vermont. I'm hoping that that Andrea Brett, who I appointed to the Racial Justice Oversight Board from the Missisquoi Abenaki, will help to begin to make change there as well, so that Abenaki people become embedded in the decision-making processes within the state to really make this a much more inclusive and welcoming state. So thank you all for being a part of this. I'm so excited to be taking this next step forward and look forward to all the work there is still to be done. Thank you so much.
I'd like to recognize Chief Eugene Rich from Missisquoi.
Kwai Kwai. My name is Eugene Rich. I'm the chief of the Missisquoi Abenaki Nation. I had a real long, involved, drawn-out speech, but quite frankly, Chief Don Stevens took all the good stuff. So, why are we here today? The beginning of a heritage recognition is an amazing step. People have been trying for this for decades. We had people very loud and boisterous, large personalities, and we've had some quiet people working behind the scenes. The collaboration between our people and the government is finally one of unity, or building a trust and shaking hands. At my office, we have at least a dozen state entities that we partner with, and that comes a long way. But what makes us Abenaki? Our heritage, our customs, our ceremony, these things that we practice. And you're going to get to see part of a ceremony today being performed by Alno Baiwi. And it's practice, the intent becomes pure to yourself if you keep it up and you realize how long and how old these traditions are. The teaching of Columbus Day. When I grew up, it was the whitewashed version. Everybody hugged and lived happy. When you talk to children today, they have no different view, but we're making strides, we're taking steps, and we are coming together to come up with a curriculum that would make sense. And it's one that we can all embrace, because I remember my grandparents. I now have grandchildren, and I want them to know the truth. So, being indigenous, I mean, an immigrant by definition cannot be indigenous. Indigenous is our birthright. And the fact that we're all coming together, I just want to say uliuni. Thank you.
Before I introduce Senator Tim Ashe, the pro tem of the Senate, I'd like to recognize someone we see in the crowd from our congressional delegation. Tom Barry, how you doing? Just a shout out from Senator Leahy's office. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim Ashe. I'm the President Pro Tem of the Senate, and there's another shout-out I'd like to make, which is there's a diminutive figure here in the front row, but she's mighty of spirit, Debbie Ingram, who's waving. Be a little less shy. So Debbie was not alone in leading the charge for Indigenous Peoples Day, but was the real champion, along with Anthony Pollina and several other people in the Senate. She doesn't seek the limelight, but she really championed the cause of making this happen. There are other people here. I know Senator Ruth Hardy and others. We're here on the ethnic studies legislation, which will finally take a full look at all the curriculum that our schools teach our kids through the K through 12 system to make sure that all peoples are represented in the way we teach our kids. And I want to thank those legislators who worked on that. I will tell you, my first term in the legislature was 2009 and 2010, and I served on the committee that took up the bill of granting state recognition to the Abenaki people. And so for me, my first term, we got it done. And I was able to say to Chief Stevens, well, that wasn't so hard. He disabused me of that notion. But from those very first days, I have felt so privileged to be on this journey with you all, because ultimately this is not about politicians. This is about elected people finally creating a government that reflects the people who have inhabited this land for so long. So I want to thank all of you for your persistence, and I do want to make one final acknowledgement. This building is the most visited building in the state of Vermont every year. And so the fact that on the very ground floor people will be seeing the history of the Abenaki people, to me, is a really powerful symbolic message. People across this country will know the story of the Abenaki people through the display that David Sheets and others have worked so hard to create. So congratulations on all these achievements. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I'd like to introduce Carol, the chair of the commission. So she's going to say a few words.
I think I must be the shortest one here, huh? I'm Carol McGranahan, and I am chair of the Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs. This is a great day. It's a great day to celebrate and give thanks. First, the Abenaki State House display is now in place. Many thanks to the Friends of the State House, the Curator's Office, the Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs, the Abenaki leaders, the legislators, and our allies for all of their support. We are here. Second, we will be officially celebrating Indigenous Day this year. Many thanks to Brian Chena for his continued persistence and support, Rich Holshoe of the Vermont Commission on Native Affairs, Governor Scott, the legislators, and all of our supporters. We have always been here. Third, the proclamation of Abenaki Recognition and Culture Week. Thanks to Governor Scott and the Curator's Office, we are still here. This is also a time to thank the ancestors, the present generation, and the generations to come. My children and grandchildren can share their heritage and not be afraid. Be proud of who they are and no longer hide, and teach their children what it means to be Abenaki. We are here. We have always been here. We are still here.
Thank you, Carol. I'd like to introduce the chief of the Coasuk of the Coas, Shirley Hook.
It was a beautiful day, wasn't it, everybody? We've been waiting for it for a long time. I'd first like to thank the governor and the legislature for making this Abenaki Heritage Week. It has been a long process from the recognition of 4 tribes to this moment. The Vermont Commission of Native American Affairs have put in endless hours through the years. We are grateful for all their support and hard work. I'd like to remember the late Chief Nancy. She'll be looking down on us and smiling. I thank Mother Earth, Father Sky, Grandfather Sun, and Grandmother Moon for such a beautiful place as this place. Thank you, everybody, for all your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Shirley. I'm going to recognize Jim Taylor, who's an elder at the El Nu Abenaki tribe.
I didn't come today with any prepared words, but I speak today on behalf of the El Nu people as tribal councilman. This is a good day. It's a good day to finally see the things that we gave to the State House actually displayed, and so that all the people of Vermont and anyone that travels here can see the relationship that we have now with the state of Vermont that we didn't once have. So on behalf of my people, my brothers, my sisters, and all of my brothers and sisters in Nido Ba, thank you very much. Uliwani.
Thank you, Jim. Like we said, we've been down a long road, and we appreciate all the support from everybody. Now that the speeches are over, we're going to have a little fun. I want to let people know what's kind of going on. The Nulhegan drum is going to be next. We're going to be drumming for probably about 20 minutes or so. Around 5 o'clock, Jesse over there from the Cisco, who's an awesome chef that works at Sweetwater's, I'm going to throw that plug in there, is cooking some native food for us. It opens around 5. We're going to have some bean soup, and I'm not sure the whole menu, but I know when you get over there you'll see it. Then after Nulhegan drums, Alan Bywee is going to the Cultural Center, which is actually, we're working now with the Ethan Allen Homestead. So they're going to do a performance for us. And then Brian Blanchett will, from Nulhegan, is going to do some contemporary songs. And then, yeah, we're just going to enjoy ourselves and just kind of have fun. And this goes till 6 o'clock. I encourage everybody when they get a chance. The display is really beautiful, and I really highly suggest you look at that sometime while you're here, or any time during the year. So thank you all. We appreciate it. Thanks, Brian, for your work. Thanks, and I want to thank all there's a lot of legislators, because there just isn't enough time, but we have to really thank the legislators, past and present, and the ones in the future, because you know, they're here to partner with us, and we're the only race that has to be identified by another government. So without them, we wouldn't have that legal recognition. We know who we are, but for legal reasons. So we need to really thank them for providing that, because it benefits our children more than it benefits us. So thank you. Have a nice day.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Representative Vicki Strong. I'm from Albany, Vermont, and I represent 7 towns in the Northeast Kingdom: Albany, Barton, Craftsbury, Greensboro, Glover, Wheelock, and Sheffield. and each town is unique and special to me. I appreciate hearing from my constituents and value their input, and that's why I serve here every day. When I drive in, I'm here to be your voice, and it's a very diverse voice, but I do the best I can to represent you. This year, it's a new session, and I'm on the Agriculture and Forestry Committee, and I just love it and have been energized to be there. And we really are talking about the backbone of our economy being agriculture and forestry, and the acres and acres of land that are being used for these purposes. And in our committee, we're talking about the various kinds of agriculture, and many of those farms now, we have 6,000 diverse farms, 700 dairy farms, and the bad news is that our dairy farms are decreasing, and we've lost half of our dairy farms within the last 10 years, and that's a very sad trend, and one that I regret, something that we can't really get to the bottom of and change here in our state, because our dairy markets are huge and global, and the cost of our milk is dictated really by global markets. So it's sad and upsetting that the price of milk is so low and that so many dairy farms are just not able to make it with that situation right now. So we just want to encourage you that we're working here to try to help our dairy industry and our farming in general, and I'm hoping that there's glimmers of light as we move forward. And we're working on a bill right now called S-160 that is looking into our markets to see if we can get more of our products out of the state into markets that are surrounding us, Boston, New York City, Philadelphia. We have a huge amount of population that can really access our markets if we can get our products there. And we're also working on how to get our products more in our local institutions, our schools and hospitals and prisons, places where we can have local milk and local vegetables and local things that our farmers are making. So we appreciate the hard work of our farmers and our loggers, foresters that are keeping our lands open and working. Also, we've talked a lot about the improvements farmers are making for our soil and our water and our air, and we want to give all of these folks a lot of credit for the things they're doing. They're taking too much of the blame for some of our water quality issues, while you're working hard, the farmers are working hard to improve their techniques and do buffer zones and no-till or low-till, monitoring fertilizer use, also increasing the organic matter in the soils, and that helps with water absorption. It keeps the carbon in the soil, it improves the quality of the soil so that the grass and other things that are grown there are higher quality. So that takes a lot of work and a lot of innovation, and we see a lot of groups of farmers gathering together for soil quality, forming their own groups to say, what can we do together? They share farming equipment and techniques, and together they're making a big difference in the state of Vermont. So we're very appreciative of that. And just was reading a study just before I came right here that shows Vermont is a leader in getting our local products, our high-quality vegetables, things like that, into the hands of local Vermonters. And some of the obstacles are really big, like our bigger grocery stores often don't take as much availability of those local products, but we're working on seeing how to make that change. So it's been a delight for me to be on the Ag Committee. I graduated from Sterling College many years ago and have had that love of the land and of nature and of farming for so many years. My husband grew up on a dairy farm, and the Strong family in Craftsbury has had a dairy farm for 3 or 4 generations now, and still going. Used to be Guernseys, now it's Holsteins. But I have a lot of farming in my background. My grandmother started her own little farm, a little dairy farm, and by herself, milked cows, shipped her milk out many years ago. Obviously, my grandmother was born in 1898 and actually grew up in a sod house in Nebraska till they moved to Iowa and farmed there. So I see the future of Vermont as being bright for farming, and I think we're making a huge difference in this last few years to give our farming a better name in the state, and I hope we will continue on that track. As I am thinking about the bigger picture here in Montpelier in the State House, in many ways we're moving a little slow right now, and I kind of like that. The end game stress can be really hard, and right now I think committees are working on getting their final drafts of bills out. I'm disappointed in some ways. I really want to see our education, especially for my small towns and small schools, I want to see them thrive. I want to see them stay open, each little town. Albany, Craftsbury, wonderful schools, Greensboro, Glover, so many, Sheffield. These are great schools, and we need to keep them. If we're going to keep our families coming and moving into our towns, even simple things like that school there, a mini mart, a church, these are the backbone of each community, and we want to see you all thrive. So I'm for school choice personally. I think there's a lot of potential there to get more school choice in our state and not less. I don't believe consolidation is the answer to saving any money, and in my Northeast Kingdom communities it's a little tough drive if we have to consolidate some schools, and I want to see each town stay vital and vibrant. So I'm here for you, my constituents. It's been a pleasure to serve you. It's hard work, more than I ever realized when I first got elected 9 years ago. But I'm continuing on with the faith that we're making things better, and I'm here to serve you. So thank you so much, and God bless to all of you out there. Keep working. Bye.
Hi, folks. I'm Anthony Pollina. I represent Washington County in the State Senate. I serve on the Government Operations Committee, but also on the Agriculture Committee, and I wanted to talk for a minute about two things we're working on in the Agriculture Committee that I think should be of interest to all of us who are concerned about our environment and our food supply. We're working on a bill that would restrict the use of neonicotinoids. Now, we'll call them neonics for short. They're a kind of pesticide that was fairly new. They were developed in the 1980s, 1990s. And the thing is, they were developed in part because they were supposed to replace chemicals that were harmful to people, which they are less harmful to people, not harmless, but less harmful. But the problem is they're actually turned out to be very harmful towards bees, and we need bees in order to continue to have our food supply the way we like it. So right now, what these things, what they do is they're systemic. If you put them on your plants, they actually take it up and they become a part of the whole plant. So if a bee takes nectar or pollen from the plant, or any other bug nibbles on the plant, they actually consume some of the neonicotinoid, which affects their neurological system, makes it actually difficult for the bees to navigate, and actually makes it hard for them to reproduce. So what we're saying is that we want to restrict the use of neonicotinoids by home gardeners who have a tendency to overuse sprays and chemicals as it is at times and are not trained to use them well. So the bill would restrict the use of neonicotinoids, make them a restricted use pesticide, which means you'd have to be a certified applicator in order to use them, which essentially means they would no longer be used in home gardens because people are not certified applicators. It's only a small step towards helping with the big problem. You know, people say, what's the problem? Well, we need bees, and right now bee colonies are collapsing. We've had a lot of bee species become extinct here in the state of Vermont as well as around the world. There's even some ideas that some of these neonicotinoids are beginning to affect mammals. There have been some studies in deer that talk about the effects of neonicotinoids on mammals as well. And I would also mention that these things have been banned in the European community and in the United Kingdom as well. So it's a small step because most of the neonicotinoids are actually used, they're a treatment that are put on seeds for corn and soybeans, which are then planted in farm fields. We're not actually dealing with that in this particular bill, but we're taking a step forward by saying we know these things are dangerous, we know that they're really harmful to bees, and you know, when the bees are gone, the food is gone. You're going to lose all our, from apples to blueberries to raspberries to broccoli, you name it. The great majority of food plants in this world rely on bees to pollinate them and keep them growing. So if we lose the bees, we lose access to our food supply. We couldn't ask for anything more dangerous than that. So that's something that actually has already passed the House, and I'm pretty sure it's going to pass the Senate sometime soon. Another somewhat smaller thing, but important as well, is we're trying to make it a bit easier for people to sell raw milk. Right now, raw milk producers in Vermont, raw milk sellers in Vermont, are much more restrained than they are in states like New Hampshire and Maine, our neighboring states. They're really restricted in where they can sell and how they can sell, how much they can sell. And if they want to sell their milk at a farmer's market, for example, raw goat's milk, they have to have their customers sign up ahead of time and then meet them at the farmer's market, which of course doesn't make any sense. You can't come to the farmer's market and say, gee, that looks like a good product, I think I'll buy it. You have to have already signed up to buy it beforehand. Other states don't require us to do that. They also have to have a really big sign, like 3 feet by 2 feet, that talks about the potential dangers of drinking raw milk. Now, we would like to see that sign made a lot smaller and make it a lot easier for farmers to sell raw milk. And I would mention that there are some issues around raw milk somewhat, but there have been no verified cases of serious health or death from drinking raw milk, not just in Vermont, but I mean around the country as well, whereas we've all seen the scares about lettuce and other kinds of products that, mass-produced products that are found to have harmful effects at times if something goes wrong in their processing. So we're trying to make it easier for people in Vermont to get access to raw milk because it's something that a lot of people enjoy and it can be good for a lot of people. So it's interesting because that's going to be a tough one. There's a lot of resistance to that effort, but we're making some progress in our committee, and I expect that we will make it easier for people to access raw milk in the days to come. So I appreciate you listening. We'll check in again another time.
Hey, Rick. Today I'm going to talk about an issue in the legislature, the emission controls on automobiles and the inspection of them. We have a lot of people having a problem getting their cars inspected because they're not passing on the emission controls. And there's really two things we could do about this problem. One is what the Senate has proposed, which is just exempt the older cars and tell them they don't have to get inspected. We could do that for everybody, which is what the Senate proposes, whether you're wealthy and can afford to fix your car or not. And I don't agree with that approach. I think what we should do is fix the cars. So, I do acknowledge there's a problem, although I have not heard from any constituent of mine, but others have, and they've showed me the emails, and some of them are very good emails in that the person articulates a difficult situation that they have. Some people, I read one where this fellow had actually tried to fix the car, had a new catalytic converter installed, I think, and a couple of other things, and his engine trouble light still was stubborn and would not turn off. So it's a complicated thing these days because cars are complicated, and cars are complicated for a number of reasons, but one of them is the Clean Air Act and EPA's enforcement of it, and that's the reason our air is clean. There's other reasons, but the Clean Air Act is the only reason. The Clean Air Act also regulates power plants. It's the Clean Air Act that stopped acid rain falling in Vermont and the Adirondacks. And it's the Clean Air Act is the reason that our cities, including cities like Burlington, are so much cleaner than they used to be. So I don't think we want to not go along with the Clean Air Act, and we don't want to fight the EPA. The EPA is doing good work in trying to keep our air clean. So if there's a problem where some people can't afford it to fix their car, then I think we should somehow pay for that. And that's what my committee is looking into. Fixing the cars and taking care of people that have, one, relatively low income, two, a relatively expensive repair for their emission controls. To me, the answer is not take away the requirement, it's fix the car.